For those who are holding on to XRP, this is actually going to be something interesting because the fact that central bank digital currencies are going worldwide and you actually get these banks giving you the idea that they're going to accept this into their ledger. They are going to allow you to get it as one is to one in the banking sector. And when we actually go look at what these banks were doing, they were getting integrated into a network named as Ripple's network. So that's like 2 years back. And right now we watch that this is rolling out in India. And you actually see few banks are actually involved in this initiative and things are rolling out quickly. That's not just in the nation which we are observing. We are watching that going all over the globe. IMF actually gives you the narrative of a change in the financial infrastructure, and this is about to go higher. Now, that talk is about the banking system, the change of the current banking model. Now, this goes back to 2017. So, while we look at all these things which are evolving right now, understand they have been working on something like this from some time. And if you actually come here, the thought process shared by Ripple on the latest report here about the future of central bank digital currency, it kind of sums it up, right? They actually gave Brazil is planning to launch their central bank digital currency in 2024. Then we already have the Ripple partner going on. Then we have others jumping onto the same network. Now, it can be like, CBDC networks, which is actually a domestic stuff, which can be used for the cross-border payments. Great. But all of this are going to be, again, different walled gardens, which need to be on a same level, which is interoperable layer. Now, as we go through this, we actually understand like, okay, the fundamentals of this project is so strong, but what kind of seeps through for a lot of us is what the market is showing us. Say, this is a weekly chart in which, yeah, we are trending higher, but the price action kind of seems like scary. We don't really understand what the hell is happening. And if that's you, it's not just you. Most of us have this issue. That's why we are trying to break this down. Last time when we bottomed out, the market showed us the price made a lower low at a time when the RSI made a double bottom. So you got a divergence. Now, the same on the opposite side here, when the price made a higher high and the RSI made a lower high, that gave you another divergence suggesting, okay, that's done. The market is about to go down. Great. Right now, what can we actually see? That is the question we should ask ourselves if we are holding on to this asset. And if you see this happening in the chart, now for you, it should be like, okay, what more can I see, right? You actually break into that. Now, if you want to add on more information so that the picture is actually clear and you can literally watch a holistic image in which you understand, okay, macro, things are evolving like this. On a micro, I think the probability of a change in the trend is happening. But for that, we need to see Bitcoin dominance dropping because XRP is one of the largest cap coin out there on the alt market. When XRP is going up, we will see correlated assets running higher for sure. That means the Bitcoin dominance should slow down. Right now, yes, we are watching a slowdown. We're getting a higher high in the price terms and the RSI is showing you a divergence. So that kind of gives you a thought process. Bitcoin dominance may actually slow down. Now it's still at the resistance, trying to make it a support. But if we get a break to the downside, that is going to be positive for the altcoin market as a whole. Welcome to the Scientific Investor family, where the normal retail guys get to learn how to become the next top 10% of this world. Right now, the cryptocurrency market is just below $1.2 trillion. The market seems to be struggling. But in reality, when you actually go into the market to see what the hell is happening right now, Bitcoin actually suggests you that, yeah, last 24 hours, we have not yet done much. We're kind of moving here and there within this range. But if we actually get rejected to test the previous range here, now that's actually a short-term chart, so the odds are different, right? It's not like a long-term chart. So if we actually drop back to 26,500, don't be surprised, it's going to be just a path where we need to hit that support to get more buying power, to attract more buyers, and then move back up. So the move back up shouldn't actually look like a massive move, because right now we are actually going in the corrective move. What does that mean? Like we talked last time, if we actually bounce back here, we would actually watch the price go up, hit another level of resistance, and from there correct back lower. Fine. Now, that actually takes us back to the thought process which we were discussing about. Like, if the Bitcoin dominance need to slow down, that means Bitcoin has to go down for sure. And that actually plays in here. It's in line with the thought process. Say Bitcoin actually come back down to 23,000, 22,000, and that allows altcoin to bleed less if the Bitcoin dominance is reducing. Right now, we actually observe the fact that Ether is slowing down. We actually can see a ABC pattern. We need to see where the C leg is going to go end, because that is going to be painful as we watch. Because right now, if we actually focus on the RSI, it kind of shows you like, okay, there is a pattern evolving. That's the trend line support for that pattern, and this is the trend line support for that resistance. So you get a pattern by using two trend lines. So that's trend line support and resistance, where we actually think like, okay, when Bitcoin bounces for that short term, Ether may also do that. It can also bounce, test this resistance, get rejected for the most part. If we break that, now we are looking for a higher high in the price action. Now that's a different story. Now we come back here on the XRP. Yes, this looks great. The weekly is holding on. The RSI is bouncing from that level. We need to see whether we're going to do that this time around. But looking at last 5-6 times, we may say like, okay, if we have done that, I wouldn't say this time it's different, because it actually goes in with the divergence as well. The price put in a double bottom at a time when the RSI showed you a rising trend line, which means the strength is actually increasing. And that happens to be on a long-term support resistance zone. So for example, that is a long-term range. Last 5-6 years, we have held on to that trend line as a support and resistance. Now, while we come back to retest that range on the RSI, we actually ask ourselves like, okay, this can be a macro ABC corrective action, which is happening in the market. And while you look at the C leg, we usually get the 5 impulsive to the downside. So here we get the 1, the 2, and the 3, which completed here. Great. What happens after that? The price go back in the corrective trend, right? So the short-term corrective trend here would be the ABC to the upside, which actually have completed. Then you again resume the trend to the downside. So here in the blue, A, B, C, D, E. Now here, I'll put that in the red because it seems like the trend is changing, because it did not actually create a new low compared to the corrective legs here. It did not actually erase that corrective leg and go down. So bears were not able to push the price lower even in that impulsive move. After which you again went on doing a ABC corrective pattern. Now, when your impulsive wave to the downside has been slow, usually what happens is the next move actually turns into a bullish trend. So that's the rally inside a bear market or bearish move turning into a bull market. That's how the trend change. So if we observe the fact that, okay, the price is actually doing the wave 1, the wave 2 here, and if we can actually bounce off from that point for range and go higher in price terms, go higher towards 0.6, 0.7, 0.8 in XRP, we are literally about to see a massive blast off in the price. Now, add that with all those fundamental things we are watching. Now, I'm not actually saying like we may actually go hit $27 right now, because what I'm looking at right now is $0.6 to $0.7. That's short-term move. Now, maybe the price can actually go to $18, $20, $22, but it will actually depend on how the entire market work. Because on the other side, we are watching dollar slowly bouncing back up. We've talked about this probability. Now, we need to see dollar getting rejected from a resistance and breaking this pattern to the downside. That is going to be supreme point of importance for all of us because, yes, gold is slowing down. We're getting the divergence, but it is on a daily chart. When you go on a macro chart, you are seeing a slowdown, but again, that's a macro pattern where you're trending to the upside. So you cannot actually trust that the pattern is right now a distribution pattern because the spring event which you actually got was down here, not on the top side, right? So if it's at the bottom, it's usually a reaccumulation pattern. So with all the central banks buying onto gold, the thought process can be easy. Okay, they are actually loading gold up. If we follow up on last 30 days, last 50 days, we'll be surprised how much the central banks are looking forward to this. But yes, the market will actually give you more opportunities for sure. It's actually showing these metals are going to come back down, and that is going to be an opportunity. Now, while that happens, money actually moves from one asset class to another. Usually, a lot of these traders try to enter into assets somewhere close to the support or just above the support and use that next leg to the upside. So while we wait to see the price drop, yes, we are patient enough, but the market is actually irrational, right? It actually tries to push that fear, push that panic into all of us. We need a lot of details, right? We need to actually understand like, okay, the price is going to come back lower. It's going to keep a lot of opportunities in front of us. And it can be struggling because you will actually see like the price is low, then the price actually moves down. All of these panic can literally enter into the market. While we were talking about this, we actually had this thought process, right? Yeah, it's still here, but instead of making a bull flag, it may drop to the downside. It can actually act as a checkmate pattern. That's a possibility. See, here the price actually came down, it stayed there, it went up, but it was a checkmate pattern which went up, which tested the resistance and got rejected immediately. Imagine the same situation happening on the opposite side. You come back down, test the support, get rejected, immediately you go back up. But that's not a change in trend. For the change, we need macro moves, not the short-term moves. So even though the market is going to be super volatile, it is about to bring massive opportunities if you are actually prepared to seize those opportunities. Now, it's not only in the assets like XRP, but the difference with a lot of other assets in the market and XRP is the utility and how deep the utility goes. What's the target market, right? That solution kind of brings in a lot of competition as well. For sure, if you have a big target market, others also see that as an opportunity. They come into the space, they try to compete. So we actually look at all of these different assets like HBAR, like XLM, all of these to understand like, okay, what are they doing in terms of the price action? Does it really look like they are moving higher? Now, XLM does look like it is following XRP for the most part, or at least following similar pattern. Now, while we look at the support resistance zone here in the RSI, we actually see like, okay, it's coming back down, and the trend line, if we actually plot that, we are breaking that to the downside. So there is some level of panic which is about to come back into the market, which may actually push the price down to this range. So that's another 5 to 10% down in terms of the price action for XLM. But then the question actually becomes like, okay, if that's true on the macro, what does that make? I think most likely it's actually going to make a double bottom pattern here, somewhere close or just wick lower before it actually goes back up, because the RSI actually shows you the fact that it is creating a rounded bottom, and close to the bottom, you actually get massive wicks in the market, so that the leverage trades, those who leverage to the teeth, are kicked out of the market. So you don't want to be in that criteria where you are leveraged to that extent where short-term moves in the market will kick you out. Now, yes, people do leverage trading, understandable, but look for the options, right? What are the literal options you have in the market? If you are being leveraged, yeah, the risk you're taking is super high. So you need to understand like, okay, there is a trend line which is actually moving that way, and the trend line on the RSI is moving on the other direction, which shows significant level of correction is about to enter the market. Unless you invalidate this and at this point, it doesn't actually look like you're invalidating that point. Rather, you're actually confirming like, okay, we still have another leg to the downside. We need to see how deep that's going to be. It may take another 10-15 days to play out, but if you do have the level of patience, you are going to buy a lot more assets at a cheaper price point. Now, yes, it's not only about Ether, it's not only about Bitcoin, right? When Bitcoin drops, when Ether drops, you actually see massive buying opportunity coming into this market, right? Recently, while we were actually discussing through a lot of these coins, in different areas where I actually post things, I actually highlighted a fact like, okay, this is happening, right? And that was mainly for Pepe. When it was actually dropping, people were getting liquidated. I was actually highlighting the fact that, okay, it seems like blood is there in the streets. And that's usually when you actually think about buying, right? Trying to catch a falling knife. And then what happened after that? The price actually went up. So it went up like 60%. And when it actually went up that 60%, I actually highlighted, okay, it's about to follow Bitcoin, which actually means like with the market efficiency, it may actually slow down. So right now, when you see it's down, back down, it actually makes sense. If you're following the pattern, if you're following the market psychology, you actually get to see all of this. And now, if you're in that perspective, like, okay, I need to see a lot more of this, you can look at the Patreon. The link is given in the description below, where we go through all of these assets one by one so that you get the clarity which you want in this market. And especially if you think the market is about to come back down and push a lot of these assets to the downside, then you're looking for massive opportunity in this market, right? And if you think that's going to change the perspective of your life financially, then it's time for you to think seriously. Keeping all the jokes away, taking more and more books every day to read through, to learn through, and to revise through. Say, some of these books are really important, right? There's nothing like, the paid version and all. I'm reading through this. This actually gives you a ton more of ideas to understand like what risk is there in the market. How can you control that? You cannot control the market. You can control the risk which you are taking, right? So there's a lot of different thought process which you get through these, and it enables you to better understand the market. So that's what we are trying to do while we go through a lot of these assets. So guys, if you received value for your time, please hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't done that already. I'll meet you guys on the next video. Bye for now.